the news yesterday, of course, Governor Grisham issued her executive order, essentially signing New Mexico on to the Paris Climate Accord. And I wanted to make sure I made this statement here because I think it's kind of interesting. Within that, she stated that she wanted to see us reduce carbon emissions by 45% from their 2005 levels until 2030, so 11 years from now. The good news is in San Juan County, San Juan Generating Station has actually reduced their carbon emission by 60% since 2013. So, I felt like this is like a box we could check, like, hey, Governor, we did that. We're working on certainly on everybody's health behalf, but I think we got to have some balance here. We got to have a balance between jobs and industry and also trying to protect our environment. And there is a balance that can be struck. But in many cases, and we talk about this a lot in other places, we're not California. But we see a lot of the California ideals trying to be presented here, and we simply don't have the resources, the population, or the other things that California has to be that state. Tax reform is something, Steve, and I know, Roger, you're working on this too, but we as a city, we of course would love to see internet sales, all internet sales be taxed, because we're bleeding out essentially from our brick and mortar stores as far as taxes go, and it makes it very hard to compete with the internet because of that. So maybe you could talk a little bit about tax reform and things that you're seeing in regards to that legislation.
Well, there's a lot of legislation that deals with taxes. There's a bill in the House that I think at this point it's kind of it's on hold. We'll see what happens. But it was planned to generate around $300 million. But it did it without oil and gas. That was probably a good thing because it would broaden the tax base some. But it basically raised raised taxes on a wide variety of things. Some good, including the internet sales and so forth, and some not so good. So fortunately, I don't think that's going to advance. There's other bills out there. There's one on the Senate side. One of my colleagues on Senate Finance, Senator Cisneros, is trying to put together a bill that's a little more moderate. It would have some broader health care taxes that would help with the Medicaid funding and so forth. That would actually benefit the citizens because it would help fund Medicaid, and that's another issue we have. About 45% of our population is on Medicaid. It's a big deal. It's huge in New Mexico. We're probably the
further exacerbates the issue of trying to cut jobs out from underneath us within our primary industry.
There's a lot of things on the table as far as tax reform. As you know, the city has the hold harmless funding that comes in every month. That's being phased out over a number of years. You've still got quite a few years left, but trying to restructure that would save us considerably as far as the gross receipts tax if we did that in the right way. But it would require some things like putting tax back on food that we took off a number of years ago. That's not popular with a lot of people, to be quite honest, but the facts are that none of us really pay much tax on food, if you look at it. And people who are in lower income stratas, they get SNAP benefits. They don't pay tax on food. So we actually raised taxes on non-food items so that we could afford taking the tax off of food years ago. If we reverse that to some degree, we could reduce the gross receipts tax. There's a lot of taxes that were put in place so that counties and cities could survive not having that food tax. If we reverse some of those and change the structure around, we could see a 0.5%, 0.75% tax reduction in many cities around the state if we did things like that. So there's a lot of ideas. It's too early in the session to know which ones are going to happen, but tax reform is something we desperately need. We need to broaden our tax base, whether we go to property tax or whatever. We need to do some things to try to help minimize the impact, because when the oil price collapses, and it will, we know it will in the next 2, 3, 5 years, I don't know when, but it will have some kind of a fall off. When that happens, we're going to be right back where we were 2 or 3 years ago, and we couldn't pay our bills.
Right.
So, Mr. Mayor, on that point, in reality, we have 2 years in a row projected huge surpluses, historically high surpluses that we've not had before. 1.2 this year and projected, and we'll find out a little bit more when the estimate comes in, but prior to the session, projected as high as 1.1 billion next year.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, what we're seeing is both of the tax proposals, both from the Senate and the House, even though the one in the Senate is a little bit more reasonable, they're still tax increases. So folks are just now starting to find out what the federal tax changes that we did not respond to in a timely fashion. Folks who are going to be paying taxes this year are going to find, if they're in the upper level, they're going to find that their taxes have gone up. We should have dealt with that. We were one of 2 states that did not do anything to deal with that. But on top of that increase that people are going to see this year when they go to file their taxes, what if either one of the 2 proposals go forward, either the one out of the Senate or the one out of the House, you're going to see further tax increases. A proposal right now, I think both in the House and the Senate, is 10 cents per gallon of gas. But we're seeing also in the House bill at least a 33% increase for a family filing jointly at $50,000. Their increase would be a 33% increase from 4.9% to a upper level of 6.5.
Excise tax on cars.
Excise,
Another,
yes.
1 or 2% has been proposed. It's currently 3% on a car. 3% on a $30,000, $40,000 car is a lot of money already.
Right.
You add another point or two, that makes it even worse. But
So in reality, what's happening is we have all this money and we're spending it. The governor wants to give $300 million to Hollywood, and obviously we have the lawsuit concerning education that we are going to have to respond to. But I don't believe we have to respond as high as what we're being told we have to do. What's happening is the budget, year over year, all of the proposals that have come out, either from the governor or from the Democrats in the legislature, is over a 10% at least increase in the budget. That is not sustainable. Generally, what we can afford is about a 3 to 4% increase. We could very well be doing what we did in 2006 and 2007 when we had those budget surpluses, and then we spent and then increased our budget as well to unsustainable levels, and we had to fight for 10 years to get back to this point. So all the way around, this is a nightmare scenario, I think, for the state, and the rest of the state will be joining Farmington.
And our fear is we'll set the budget so high, trying to meet the education needs. We'll get a $7.1 or $2 billion budget in place, and then our revenues will drop in a couple of years to 6.5 or 6.75, something like that. So that puts us in a very tough position to maintain the education. We've given everybody a raise. We've bought put more bonds in. Whatever we do, we have to pay those bills. So,
You know, this is, for me, it echoes the same thing we're trying to do in Farmington and San Juan County is this economic diversification effort and trying to find other industries where we can really, we can grow from.
Right.
But it's hard to grow from something if they cut off what you have that sustains you. And so, you know, for us, certainly, I think representative of the city of Farmington, I think we're blessed for the fact that we are in a nonpartisan environment, so to speak. I feel like our council is very together in regards to this idea that we've got a short window of time where we understand the GRT base may kind of be stable, and we need to be working through some other areas. So as far as economic diversification goes for the state, are there any other big areas that they're working on? And Senator Bill Scher is here as well, and we wanted to bring him in on camera. But I'd definitely like to get Senator Scher's opinions as well on any economic diversification things that are going on that you guys can speak of. And we have a beautiful state here, and we've got some amazing assets that, frankly, much like the assets up in San Juan County, have been really kept secret. Is there something going on with that?
So I wish that was the discussion. The only diversification efforts that seem to be being discussed is finding a way to offer more incentive for Hollywood to come here. And there is one bill out there that I do like, which would encourage or incentivize the film industry to go outside of just the Albuquerque and Santa Fe area. But other than that, what we're really seeing is not and kind of stopping the conversation of diversification of industry. The conversation has been diversification of revenue stream. That's why you're seeing the proposals since oil and gas seems to be out of favor with this administration, going away from oil and gas and relying on oil and gas, but increasing a burden on the taxpayer themselves. That is diversifying to what they believe is a more steady stream, but I don't know that the taxpayer wants to see themselves as the target of that increase, and that's really what's being proposed.
It's not a very good offensive strategy in my mind.
Seems pretty offensive to me, Mr.
Well,
Mayor.
we're very offensive, obviously, but we're not out there. There's not a playbook, it seems like, or a game plan, and nonpartisan. Both sides coming together saying, yes, this is the kind of low-hanging fruit that we've not taken advantage of economically, and we want to build this up. Besides Hollywood, build this up to bring businesses here. Senator Scher, what are your?
So they do talk about two economic diversification things. One is tourism. That's great. So what they mean by that is in San Juan County, so we would get some people to come up there and fish in the quality waters of San Juan, like they already do. But maybe we could get another 10%. But is that going to replace the natural gas revenue from San Juan County? Not even close. Even if we have the best outdoor activities in the world, and we do, it simply won't replace that kind of revenue at that level. But that's what they talk about. And they talk about that statewide. The other thing that they talk about are the green energy jobs. But again, so we talked about the power plant earlier, 1,600 jobs. That will be replaced by literally a handful of jobs, no matter where it's done in the state. So 1,600 down to 30, they call that economic diversification. So the two things that they're most proud of simply don't hire anybody and don't pay any taxes. When you do go to the green energy things, which I'm all in favor of, they get tax subsidies. They are not taxpayers. So again, where does the money for our schools come from? Where does the money for our roads come from? Where does the money for anything that we want to do in the state come from once we've...
What's the middle class going to do in New Mexico when there's no blue-collar jobs? Or are we all just going to become coders and go work for software companies and go be cameramen for Hollywood? I mean, what are we going to do when they continue to deplete this?
So
We have a strong job base in energy.
Absolutely.
That's one of the greatest things about New Mexico is energy. And frankly, it just scares me to hear the rhetoric and everything that comes out right now. Just being in this room creeps me out. Fortunately, we're on the right side
yes.
of the house. But yeah, I hate to be doom and gloom, right? I mean, that's certainly not what we want to be. We want to be positive.
We need to be. There are some things that we could do, though. I'm not sure that this administration will do them, but one of the big reasons that industry just doesn't look at us is there's confusion in our tax code. It's difficult to figure out. And so when they have a list of, oh, these are good places to go. New Mexico doesn't have tsunamis, it doesn't have hurricanes, it doesn't have all the bad things. Oh, okay, they're on the list. But then they start looking down some of the other things and go, we don't even understand their tax code. So they're off the list. You can get a lot of tax breaks in New Mexico, but you have to put a lot of effort into finding them. And so they just come off the list. New Mexico comes off the list. So we need a tax system that is what I call sane, so that a normal person can look at it and say, oh, okay, here's the tax rate. Business isn't opposed to paying taxes. They're opposed to spending too much time trying to figure out how to do it. The other thing is regulation. We seem to thrive on regulation. And so that, again, business just looks at things, and here we are talking about the methane rule, and we're talking about other things. Well, that simply says, we don't want you here. And if we can reverse those two, and both of those can be done quickly, we just need to have the political will to do them. And will our current administration even take those on? At the moment, it looks like she's going the other way.
Senator Scher, is there anything else of interest that you want to make sure the people in Farmington know that's going on up here that we need to be paying attention to?
Well, there are a lot of bills coming through the legislature today that are pushing socialism and pushing it hard. And I think that should be a great concern to all of New Mexico. We can see that the Soviet Union failed with socialism. Communist China failed with socialism. Cambodia failed with socialism, and on and on and on. But most recently, Venezuela. Venezuela, which was a rich country, had great oil and gas resources that made them rich. And then a socialist dictator took over, and now they're not eating the zoo animals anymore because they ate them all. Okay. But people are fleeing Venezuela. Colombia actually put up fences to keep the Venezuelans from flooding into their country.
Wall.
wall. And we're
funny how that
about to do
works.
that same thing here, and I don't know why we can't look at those simple histories all around us and say, bad plan. Free markets with free people work.
If people were interested in following the bills, where's the best place for them to be paying attention to these things?
We have a legislative website, and you can go to newmexicolegislature.com.
Okay.
And if you go there, you can look under Bill Finder, but if you go to Bill Finder, you can go in there and look at every bill. There's one option to look at every bill. By title, they're listed. If there's something that you're concerned as to what a particular legislator is carrying, you can look up by the legislator's name, or if you know the bill number. But I would encourage everybody to go on there and read, and it's going to take a bit of time to read all of the bills that have been introduced. But look, and there are going to be continued to be introducing bills until the second week in February.
I think it's really important that everybody stay up to date with the things that are going on here in Santa Fe. They can certainly reach out to all the elected officials who are up representing their interests. You guys have emails, those sorts of things. But what we want to see is that everybody come together, really. I mean, for the state's sake, for all these headlines that we read about the children and ending poverty, and how do we do that if we're not working together down that same road to get to where we need to go and really promoting industry and promoting economic diversification? I mean, those are things that we're really concerned about in Farmington and San Juan County. And Glogene, I know in the past and different things that you've worked in, that has been what the state has been wanting to do. Can you talk a little about that?
We have a great opportunity to tap into New Mexico creativity and ingenuity. I mean, look at it. Arizona has a Mayo Clinic. We could have a specialized clinic here that addresses maybe what's that? What most people diabetes.
Yeah.
We have most people who have that are diabetic, and maybe here in our state, people could come to our state and they could be treated for that, because I'm sure there is enough research that's been done and ways to address this. So we have the diversity that is here with all kind of minds. We got young people out there who, you know, are great with robotics and even filmmaking. And they have, they're upcoming, they are running for offices. And so I think that our state, we can really grow, but we need to collaborate, and everybody needs to work together, because once we do this, I think our state can move ahead. And despite how we have our little differences and whatnot, you know, our common goal is to end poverty with the children, to make sure that our kids here in the state are well educated, and that we have jobs for them here so they don't leave our state.
That's right.
Because if they leave our state, you know, we lose that great mind that could have done something here. And we have the Sandia lab, we have other labs that are here. So the opportunity is here if we just kind of diversify and tap into it. And I think in doing that, we can address some of these things where maybe there's money out there that can, you know, be built and it can grow. And then our state doesn't have to depend on oil and gas.
Yeah.
But we can do really well with the minds that we've got. I really believe in that, because, I mean, you know, my time is ending, and I see these young people who are so, that technology, you know, and that's where we're headed. I couldn't even start the car where it's keyless. So I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
But I know that these young people, I mean, they're so amazing. And the beautiful thing about our state is we have all these colleges and universities and community colleges that are doing wonderful things. But we can't lose the money that, you know, we give them so that they can prepare the young people for the future.
It's got to be balanced. It's got to be balanced, and it certainly at some point we've got to stop this us versus them. You know, in San Juan County right now, in just dealing with San Juan Generating Station and this mindset that we're trying to sustain coal, which is a dying energy. Coal has a lot of really valuable purposes, and not to put it aside, but we're open to all sorts of investment in all energy sources in San Juan County, because we do have an abundance of sun. Maybe it is the methane cloud above us that allows the sun to shine 300 days a year, whatever the case may be, right? But we do have an abundance of sun, and certainly I think that if it was economical for a company to come in and build a solar power plant in San Juan County, they would do it. But it takes customers to do that. And so we would entice anybody to come up and check that out and make that happen. But I think that needs to be the attitude of the state is we're open for business. Let's talk about all the things that are available out there. They're going to drive economy and drive people to this area so we can be sustainable in the long run.
And Mr. Mayor, the quality of life, it's
yes.
here in New Mexico.
It sure is. We do. We appreciate it a lot, especially in the Four Corners. Well, I just want to thank everybody who joined me for this special episode of the Mayor's Table. Appreciate you guys taking time out of your day and the different meetings that you're going to, and certainly everybody who traveled up here on a day when we could all probably be working as well. But that's what we've been elected to do, and I'm proud to do it, as I know all of you are, representing the people of Farmington and San Juan County. We appreciate you tuning into the Mayor's Table. Stay tuned as more information comes along about the dealings of Santa Fe. We will, of course, be back up here in a few weeks for New Mexico Municipal League. So please stay tuned for more information, and we'll talk to you then.